Vanity doesn't sell, but influencers do.
If you create more content, kind of become a part of the conversation of their daily lives, they will be more likely to purchase from you. I've been watching a lot of brands on TikTok lately, and brands like Doritos or Lay's or Wendy's, they will do these wild campaigns that have nothing to do with what they offer. And what happens is they cast a wider net. When you go viral, even if it's just a vanity metric, what happens is the platform then says, trust you because you have the ability to attract and retain eyeballs. So you're going to naturally get more push on everything else that you do. So I'm a big believer in creating almost like a honeypot of viral, content.
I'm all about the honeypot.
Now the man you've been waiting for, John, the sales machine, Rankins.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, Rachel Pedersen, is a USA Today best-selling author and known as the Queen of Social Media. Rachel has helped businesses achieve exponential growth, including generating over $3 million in 1 year for a fitness company and reaching 12 million plus for a coach's campaign. She's been featured in Forbes, Cosmopolitan, and the Today Show. Rachel is going to walk us through her innovative strategies and powerful storytelling to crush your social media campaigns. Welcome, Rachel.
John, thank you so much for having me.
How did you get involved in this gig of, social media marketing and helping scale companies?
It was actually kind of like a weird fluke meets destiny moment. I used to be a hairstylist and I was giving this gal the best highlights of her life. And we were talking about Shark Tank and marketing. And she asked me, do you market for, your hair services? And I said, I do. I post some stuff and then people come in. It's pretty cool. And she goes, oh, can you show me your tweeter? And I said, show you my what? No. And at first I was like,
show you my tweeter.
Yeah, I was like, we don't do that at this salon. And she goes, the little blue bird thing. And I said, oh, Twitter. Yeah, I'll show you my Twitter. And basically, I went to their house not long after that, her and her husband, and they had just purchased a fast food franchise, Mrs. Winter's Chicken and Biscuits. Have you ever heard of it, John?
I have not.
Okay, so it's southeast United States, and it's mostly in like Memphis area, a little bit in North Carolina, Asheville. And they hired me on the spot to be their marketing consultant. And I said, you guys do know I don't have a degree and I have no formal experience as a marketer. And they're like, we don't care. We really like this like spark that you bring to things. So let's do it. And that was my very first client. And that's exactly how I got into marketing.
Right on. And what kind of results did you create for them? And how long did you stay with them?
So I worked with them for, I want to say 2 or 3 years, even once I went full-time into marketing from the hair industry into marketing. The cool thing is we did some kind of like savage behind the scenes campaigns with targeting high net worth people on LinkedIn. My purpose was actually to generate leads for the franchise. And I generated, it was close to, I want to say 75 leads within the first 3 months. And I mean, qualified leads interested in having a conversation. Passed them along to the franchise director and they were absolutely thrilled. So they continued to expand, open new locations. It takes a few years for franchises. They expanded. And then from there, I started doing a little bit on their client side, like the customers, reaching customers in the Southeast. I had to study a lot about like Tennessee culture and, what is Beale Street, even went to Beale Street to go check it out. And we had some campaigns actually go viral, which was really fantastic. Up until that point, social had been completely dead. And yeah, they ended up selling profitably just a few years later. The entire
right on.
Yeah.
So you've been involved with the B2C as well as the B2B.
I have. Yes.
Tell me, so for all of the listeners out there, what's the difference? Or is there a difference in generating leads, B2C and B2B?
There's a difference between B2B and B2C. B2C is business to consumer or business to customer, depending on how you look at it. It's essentially where you are marketing something directly to the person who's going to be the end buyer. B2B is business to business. That means you are still marketing to a person, and there's the similarity. However, it's to a decision maker within a business, corporation, enterprise, and you're selling something that's going to benefit the business or entity as a whole.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
I've done both myself,
Yeah, I believe it.
but doing direct selling. And now I do it, I've done it. I used to do it like this. Hi, how you doing? That's how I made my first $1,000,000,
Wow.
knocking on doors.
Uh-huh.
Thankfully, I've evolved, but I'm not afraid of knocking on doors. I mean, I did it for years, and then I built tens of thousands of sales people within my own organization and scaled it, selling anything from skincare, car care, and now we sell software, believe it or not, and help companies scale their businesses with sales and marketing performance software. So it's been a crazy journey. That's why I want to know about your journey, right?
Yes. So one thing that's really fascinating, I personally prefer B2C selling. It's one of my favorite things. I love getting into the mind of customers, consumers, like thinking about, it's almost like old school Mad Men advertising. I sit back and I put myself in their shoes. Have you ever seen the movie What Women Want with Mel Gibson back in the day?
Yeah, I have.
I just watched it this weekend. And I love the scene where he's putting on the pantyhose and the bra and he's got his nails painted because he's trying to put himself in the mind of a woman. But I actually do this process quite a bit. So I spend a lot of time in really wild Reddit threads to kind of just read how conversations play out between people that I'm not a part of their demographic or psychographics naturally. So I sit and study what are people actually saying when they're talking to their friends about this issue. And then I find a way to basically combine all of these different thoughts into these incredible campaigns. So by the time they're ready to purchase, or by the time they get to the sales page, they say, this has already blasted my objections. This product knows what I'm thinking and experiencing, and they've thought about me. This feels like something I need.
Right on. And obviously before AI, you had to do a lot of this work on your own or have researchers do it. How has it shifted since, end of 2022, artificial intelligence? How have you pivoted it to utilize it for your campaigns?
I love AI. There's still a human element that I will never outsource. I really like having my finger on the pulse of any campaign first. So that's the very first step. I need to know, what are the pain points? What are the desires? What's the end result? What have they tried? What sucks? What are they saying in their own words? But then this is where AI has changed things. So I'll combine all of those different sections and then have AI analyze the patterns and rank each and every one of those topics based on which ones appear the most. But I still manually review a lot because I love getting into people's brains.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the biggest mistake businesses make running social media campaigns?
There's a massive disconnect. Most business owners, entrepreneurs, and their teams in marketing, they are so focused on their product. They think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Of course, people need it, they want it, etc., that they never slow down and say, but what is actually making our person cry? Why does our woman need this waist shaper? Why does this man need this knife sharpener? What is stressing him out? And I really think they're so caught up in selling that they forget the market research of essentially what is it that this person's experiencing that you are going to be able to improve or reduce for them.
How would you suggest a company craft a social media strategy and campaign that drives engagement and sales and not just likes and followers? And, because Vanity doesn't sell, but influencers do. So Vanity doesn't sell, but influencers do. They outperform, the market by thousands of a
Yes.
percentage.
Yes. And I would argue most businesses aren't having success with organic social just from everything that I've seen. And I think part of the reason is because they stay so tightly in their lane of their product and their industry, when in fact, if you really get to know the person that you want to sell to, think of that, the one dream person or the 3 dream demographics, psychographics, avatars, If you create more content, kind of become a part of the conversation of their daily lives, they will be more likely to purchase from you. I've been watching a lot of brands on TikTok lately, and brands like Doritos or Lay's or Wendy's, they will do these wild campaigns that have nothing to do with what they offer. And what happens is they cast a wider net. When you go viral, even if it's just a vanity metric, what happens is the platform then says, trust you because you have the ability to attract and retain eyeballs. So you're going to naturally get more push on everything else that you do. So I'm a big believer in creating almost like a honeypot of viral,
I'm
content.
all about the honey pot.
Yeah.
Let's go deeper on that.
So you do those on purpose. And then that way your other content gets pushed out.
Yeah. I've actually just seen a commercial the other day. I call them commercials and they're just video ads. BYD, Beyond Your Dreams, the electric vehicle.
Yes.
Where there was I don't know, the guy's psycho wife was, she's like, you don't love me. And then she's on top of the car making, like a horror movie, you don't love me. And he's like, man. And in actuality, he doesn't even notice she's there, right? Because he's so busy. And then, he just drives off and she's still on the car. And I'm like, and it's disruptive, right? And funny. So how well would you say disruptiveness plays a factor in things going viral and or things that are funny, especially, and is it different for B2C and B2B?
Man. Okay. It depends on the industry as to whether or not it's different. Some industries are a little more like, they button that top button of their collar. Some industries, it's really hard to get into full disruption with humor and unhinged campaigns, which I'm a huge fan of, because their industry is just so straight-laced that they can't open their minds to something that's completely different than everything they've already seen. Some that come to mind for that are, the financial investing industry. They don't necessarily want to see unhinged campaigns from anybody that's selling them anything. But when it comes to most industries for B2B, it is the same. B2C disruption almost always works as long as it's appropriate for the topic. You don't want to necessarily have, a super unhinged, humorous video ad that is for a funeral home because people might find that distasteful. But disruption can also sometimes be more than just its humor. It can be emotions. It can be something that's shockingly sad or a plot twist. John, have you ever watched those commercials? This is a guilty pleasure of mine. Have you ever watched those commercials?
I have a lot of those.
Some are from like Thailand, some are from Korea, South Korea, some are from like China. And they show these commercials where it walks you through this whole journey. And then there's a plot twist that changes the entire meaning of the whole video. And you start like crying. Have you seen those?
No, but I have some dark humor. So
I
have a favorite part in the movie that like literally was the most disruptive thing ever. And I was in a place and space in life where I was ready to fall in love. I was emotionally available. I had things going on and, just in a great place and space in my life. And I was single, right? And so anyway, I went to watch this movie and the theater was literally packed. And the movie was called Meet Joe Black. And my God, did I love that movie. And while I was in the movie theater, I didn't know nothing about the movie. I was in Singapore, and just hanging out with one of my friends. And I'm like, hey, let's catch a movie. So we go in there and we watch Meet Joe Black. And the lead up to the story is he meets this, lovely lady. She's got it going on. And they have a good conversation at the diner. And you just know it's serendipity. It's just fucking beautiful. And I'm like, man, this is going to happen to me. Right. Like, I'm at that place in my life, and they just hook, line, and sinker reeled me in. And then they both leave the restaurant and, she goes one way, he goes one way, and they say their goodbyes and they know they want to connect again. And she, she, she says, I like you.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at her and he goes, I like you so much too. Anyway, we'll see each other around. But then she stopped. So they walk away. She stops, looks back at him, and he just keeps walking. And then she turns around and walks, and then he walks, stops, looks back at her. And then again she does it. And then he does it, but he doesn't look where he's going. He gets hit by a truck, flies in the air, and then gets hit by another car. I just start laughing out loud in the theater. I'm like, you got me. I'm like, what a great director. Talk
Yes.
about plot twist. Dude is smoked. Dude just got smoked. And I'm laughing. And, I'm in Singapore and everybody's like, what's wrong with you? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Normally I predict the movie. I didn't predict that one.
No.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I just watched it for the first time last year.
The first.
Yeah. I was in the mood I like dark movies too. I'm a big fan of, like Parasite and Life Itself. I like movies that make me like cry my eyes out or feel really disturbed after. My husband and I are always.
You got issues. You don't need you need a sofa in the back of your office.
And loves the truck hitting the guy in love. Oh, but yeah, so I just saw it for the first time last year and I loved it. I mean, at the end, I cried pretty hard, but I love when videos, when social media campaigns, when they start you on one path and then there's a total plot twist without being just a gotcha. It's more of we're going to guide you through this and you're going to see what we did here. And that can be a massive disruptor, even if it's more vulnerable or emotional. I'm a huge fan of disruption in any way.
Yeah. And, I believe that, like Vines, I'm sure you've watched some Vines.
Way back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. When people are like, they're like doing something that's out of the ordinary, right? Or they shock their friends. I believe it's not what I believe. It's actually what I know, that there's a lot of people out there that they just scroll all day long, right?
Yes.
And what catches their eyes, disruption now.
Yeah.
How do you have to disrupt their pattern to get their attention because they're almost, hypnotized by social or, I'm not going to talk smack, but like I just don't put a lot of time into social because I'm really busy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Smart.
And I hire people to do this social stuff because, quite frankly, I need to make strategic decisions and I'm not going to be able to do deep work if I'm distracted.
Yeah. And social media is a massive distraction if you're not careful. It is for almost everybody. I do my social scroll time when I am walking on the treadmill on an incline. So I just literally sit there and scroll. And before I know it, an hour's gone by and I'm like, yes, my legs are burning. I feel great. And I got some research in as to like what's going viral this week, what's happening, how, human behavior is changing as consumer behavior changes.
Yeah. So, I spent a lot of time with Robert Kiyosaki and Blair Singer because I spent a lot of time building and scaling sales teams. And so Blair Singer is like the best sales trainer in the world as far as experiential learning is concerned. I mean, there's a lot of studs out there. I'm not going to deny it. I mean, I've worked with Keenan. I've worked with Jeffrey Gitomer. I've worked with a lot of different people. And, Robert Kiyosaki has had an influence on me about just being not just objective and strategic, but, being cautious because we all get burned.
Yeah.
I've been burned a lot, especially hiring marketers. So how do you, and he wrote a book called Fake. right? And it's not just about fake news, it's about fake people. He didn't just write Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant. He's written lots of books. In his last book, I was with him in South Africa for 7 or 8 days, and we were having breakfast. And I'm like, what made you bring about the book Faking? Because man, it's just there's so much smoke and mirrors. And he didn't use that terminology, but I'm summing it up. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors with coaches and or marketing agencies. What can companies do if they need to hire an expert in a social marketing agency? What can they do to ensure that they hire the right guy? Because
Yeah.
I mean, even me,
Yeah.
as objective as I want to be,
Yes.
it's confusing.
For sure.
And I can show you vanity numbers all day long. And I've recently had someone working for me, and man, he generated thousands of leads in a month.
Yeah.
And I'm a software company. It's unheard of. But then come to find out, smoke and mirror.
No, they were all fake.
Well, I would say half of them were complete garbage. Not fake, but garbage. Yeah. So what can companies do to, identify the red flags and green flags and who to work with?
Well, number one, this is the first thing I always recommend this. Do not let anyone lock you into a long-term contract for marketing. No contract should ever be more than 3 months. And ideally, it should be month to month. So if you don't vibe with someone, get out. And I mean that. We always do month to month. I always have, because I want the ability to part ways too, in case it just isn't going great or I don't vibe with someone or a team member is like, we got to let this person go. So do not get yourself locked into 6-month, 12-month, 2-year contracts. I've been hearing about those more and more, unless the person is extremely reputable and you have at least 2 to 3 people referring you to them from firsthand experience. That's the key right there. The second thing I'm going to share is people are going to be really mad at me for this. If you are paying high ticket pricing for a marketing agency, whether it's Facebook ads, funnels, maybe it's social media or any of the above, you should be able to see that they have replicated it themselves for either the CEO or a leader in the company and or the company. If you don't see it, I would be extremely careful. They should have a solid digital footprint. Almost every day, I talk to business owners who say like, oh, I hired this company. And I'm like, what's their website? They're like, well, it's down right now. And I'm like, what are their names? And I look them up. These aren't even real people, So you have to make sure they have a solid footprint and that overall, for the most part, it's pretty legit. It doesn't show, 5,000 negative BBB reviews and 0 positive. That's a red flag right there. And so even if they're not creating the type of results or digital footprint for themselves that you would want, as long as there's one consistently being put out there and getting results, that's fantastic. So if you want to hire someone, you look at their personal profile or their business page and they have 1 or 0 or 3 likes per post, it's probably not going to work. The next thing that I share, and this is really big, is do not let anyone sell you on things just because it has a fancy name. Like, this is my viral incubator. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. That's just a few names that you put together and then purchased a domain for. What is the mechanism? I need to know, what are you going to do? And make sure that all deliverables are clearly laid out. You need to know, here's what I'm going to get each and every day, week, or month. That is a huge thing. And then this is big. Do not let any agency or person, no matter how talented they are, keep you going month after month for 6 months or spending 10,000, 15 grand, 25 grand and saying, we're so close, we're testing. There is no way you can actually get results and know if something's going to work within the first $500. So I'm just going to let you know that that's probably, like I said, that's probably not going to make me super popular in the marketing industry, but I don't care because it's true. Don't let people just keep stringing you along, just saying one more month. max 1 to 3 months, you should have results and know if it's going to work or not, or part ways.
Hey folks, if you're enjoying this episode and you're picking up what I'm putting down and what the guests are actually putting out there, do me a favor, like and comment what you liked about the episode, or even comment what would you like to hear, what topics would you like to hear in the future, because believe me, it matters. I read absolutely every single one of them, and I want to bring you more and more value to help companies scale so that we can grow this podcast to make a bigger difference. Now let's get back to the show. So if you think that I'm still, what is that song? So if you think that I'm still holding on, you can go and
Yes.
yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to turn that up a little bit. So if you think that I'm still holding on, you can go and freak yourself.
John, this is something I've realized. When somebody, a marketer or a company feels the need to lock a client into a 6 or a 12-month contract, for me, that's a red flag, because my question is, well, why would I want to leave at month 7 if things are going well? Right? So they should be able to, within 3 months, be getting results. And now it's a matter of refining and scaling the results by month 3. If it's not happening, you should be able to leave. I'm really passionate about that, though.
And here's the thing. He had a track record and he was amazing at scaling, visibility, unseen is unsold and all of these different terminology, which is correct.
Yeah.
However, he never did it in SaaS, software as a service industry. And that's what I do. I have a software company now. I've pivoted from, B2C, and now I am B2B. And it works because I closed my first, $100,000 client.
Yeah.
And it's reoccurring every year. It's every year I get paid licensing, and not just one client. I signed several.
Yes.
So what I do has value, or you wouldn't be writing me a check. Unfortunately, the individual had only did B2C. And is that a red flag? So that because I want to go deeper, this is not for me. And, it's really for the listeners out there, because if I'm experiencing, so are they. Let's drill down. How important is it when you're hiring an agency that they have sold in your industry and or similar products or services? How important is that in hiring an agency?
So it totally depends on what their expertise and specialty is. Meaning, if you have a copywriter, they should be able to write for B2C and B2B. But when someone says, I'm a marketer, I can do B2B and B2C, that makes me nervous because there's not a specialty attached. I personally think B2C and B2B are different depending on whether or not the B2B pricing is a little closer to like enterprise level. That's when I see a massive difference between the two. And I also notice it takes longer for those deals to close most of the time. But here are the biggest industries that need to make sure people have a track record. This is even more so than anything else. Number 1 is the luxury markets. Luxury markets cannot work with people who have always done like mass appeal in either B2B or B2C. Luxury needs people who specialize in luxury because the luxury audience likes a different type of marketing. And the second is brick and mortar. Not all marketers can do brick and mortar. I actually can't do brick and mortar. I've tried it. I only did, the chicken franchise owner, franchisor, but I was generating leads for franchisees. So that was a little bit different. I can't do brick and mortar. And so when people come to me and they're like, do you have a track record with this? And I'm like, absolutely not. No, I'll refer you to
Can you sell chicken?
I can sell chicken. I'll write a jingle and everything. So, and then e-commerce is a little bit different. So e-commerce, you don't want to just go find someone who's like, oh, I worked for, and then they insert some massive name and they generated tons of leads for a coaching program. It's totally different. And then also software is big once again, where there's that enterprise level versus to the CB, where it's the business owner is the consumer. That one's a little bit different. So you don't have to find someone who necessarily has worked in your same industry, but you kind of want to look at those particular kind of pockets of industries or like subgroupings. And then also looking at someone who has sold something at the same or similar price point as yours. If someone's only ever sold $28 baubles and you are coming in with a $28,000 mastermind, it's going to be difficult for them to figure everything out. And the reverse is true as well. So make sure that whatever it is you're offering, they've sold something of a similar price point.
Got it. Thanks a lot, Coach.
You got it.
You know, if you would have been on time for our podcast before, you could have saved me $100,000. No, I'm giving you shit.
John,
I'm just giving you shit.
Not going to sleep tonight.
Well, neither am I. No, I'm fine. I'll be all right. I had to give you a dig there.
I know.
Anyway, yeah, when I read your profile, Rachel, and they said, yeah, okay, check this out. We got Rachel Pedersen. She's coming on the show. She's the queen of marketing. And then I read your profile and you were already booked on the podcast. And I'm like, wait a minute. She worked for a chicken restaurant. Is she legit or what? And my team's like, no. She is legit.
Okay.
I mean, as a storyteller, a copywriter, a marketer, she's totally legit. So what you've given to our audience today is really priceless. Even to me, I've gotten huge value.
Yeah.
But so saying that, you really got to get somebody involved in your niche as far as identifying your ideal client profile or customer profile and go after them, but having had similar experience with other clients. Otherwise, ixnay.
It's just not going to happen. It's not in their wheelhouse. It's kind of like, I've got 2 daughters and a son. And when I had my son, it was like, oh, it's okay. I've had kids before. No, it's so different. Son, daughters, whoa. So it's kind of like that.
Wow. I only have a son, that little guy right there. He turned 7 on Saturday, February 1.
My little guy is turning 7 in like 2 months. That's
Nice.
wild.
Congrats. Yeah. But
And-
he's a good kid. Obviously, he tries with his mother, right? Like he pushes her. He doesn't push daddy. Because I'm the fun guy, right? You don't want to mess up a good time, and I'm Mr. Good Time. And he knows, right? If I'm like, no, not cool. He doesn't play. But how is your boy different? And this is going off tangent. I don't care. How is the boy different than the girls?
Okay, so we didn't get a single chill kid, which is wild. We have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an almost 7-year-old. Our oldest is like overachieving, headstrong, high drama, like intense. She loves us and she's a good kid, but she will question and push boundaries like to our faces, and we have to like talk it out. I really respect her. Like her negotiating skills, she could be an amazing attorney if she wanted. Our second is very dramatic in a different way, like theater, theatrics, lots of emotions, very girly, but she's also not chill in any way, not at all. And our 7-year-old little guy, okay, so he's a CEO in the making. He said, Mom, what are you going to do with your business? And I said, well, I was thinking about, and I'm going to be starting a software in the next 2 years here. And I said, I'm working on this and da-da-da-da. And he goes, well, how much are you going to sell it for? And I was joking, but I was like, 256 million. And he goes, well, I think I could get you that extra 44 million if you hire me. And I was like,
I like him already.
What?
I like
So
him
his
already.
mind just works like this CEO. It's not, can I do it? It's show me how I can because I want this. And so he is very headstrong and he's a mama's boy. So he just clings to me, wants to be around me, asks me a bajillion questions. Yeah, they're all so different though.
Yeah, amazing. because my little guy, his name is Sky, he was 100% daddy's boy. Like I spent every waking moment. The first 3 years of his life, I was like from gymnastics and swimming, and I did it all with him, like
Wow.
with him, because, it's one thing you just pay for classes and send them. Me, I taught him to swim, and then hired coaches, but I was in the pool with them,
Yeah.
right? I was doing gymnastic. He used to say gymnastic with him, right? And he's like, a year old because he was so damn clumsy. I'm like, I can fix this. We take him to gymnastics, and he just got his blue belt in Taekwondo. But the first 3 years, 3.5 years, hey, mom, daddy, daddy, daddy. After 3.5, it's like, hey, dad, mommy, mommy, mommy. I'm like, what happened? What happened? I was the favorite. I put in so much time, dude.
Oh, it'll probably come back.
No, and I'm not worried because, he always says dad is right anyway, and dad's the leader. Dad's older, so mom, dad's the leader. And I'm like, I'm so glad you get it. You get it. She's not happy about it, but I'm fine with her not being happy about it.
Dominic says something similar too. He'll ask my husband Paul something, and if Paul says no, Dom says, well, mom's the real boss in this house. I'll go ask her. Then he comes right. Yeah.
Wow. He's divisive.
Yeah, we
He
don't
could be a lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer, CEO.
I was going out to the car the other day, and my son was out there playing in the street. Don't worry, it's a gated community.
Mm-hmm.
And his friends were there, and he goes, Dad, hey guys, that's my dad. And they're like, and right?
Yeah.
And he goes, he's the creator of the sales machine, and he's the richest man in the world. And I'm like, man, I just had a rough time making payroll. If you only knew, because I have a big team, but I love my team.
Yeah.
But I just thought, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
I love that.
Priceless. So stories, like I just told that story.
Yeah.
You told the story.
Yep.
How important is storytelling
Mm-hmm.
in your social media campaigns?
It is just about everything, whether it's a snippet of a story on a 4-second repeating loop, whether it's a full story that you storyboard in your head or on paper. The thing is, everybody's vying for competition or for attention. Everyone is competing with one another, and there's so much content out there. And I always think about, do you remember back in high school how there were the teachers that gave you the facts and it was boring as all get out? Do you remember those teachers? They would tell you all the things you needed to know, right? And we forget them because it was so boring. You would fall asleep. It was the teachers that made history fun, the ones that acted out things and made the fun voices and put us in the shoes of, I don't know, George Washington. And those are the ones that I remember. And those are the stories from history that I remembered most. And so I always think about that. If I can be part entertainment, part creator, what happens is my puppy is sniffing up my side. He's like, come on, mom, let's go snuggle now. Even that,
Snuggler.
yeah. So I could be like, sorry, my dog's bothering me. Or I can say my little puppy's like, mom, come on, let's go. And then people think about that and they imagine this puppy. When you can add something, just a little extra, just a little bit of entertainment into everything that you do, people can't forget you. It's the wildest thing. I had a coach years ago who taught me, all the world's a stage, and you need to remember that all roads lead to the stage. So all social needs to lead to you being on a stage. You need to command attention because you're on stage. And that just kind of shifts the way I look at all social for myself and for my clients.
Amen. Yeah, I actually checked you out. I saw a couple of your posts, and you had one of the posts I read was about the 10 things you need to do or that you can do. So let's talk about you as far as what is your methodology or your formula for actually scaling businesses and helping companies?
Yep. Okay, so this is interesting. Most companies that bring us in, not all, but most, they have almost nothing. They have no brand voice established. They don't know their brand archetype. They haven't done the research into the pain points, desires, the things I mentioned earlier. So the first thing we do is research and create entire reports on all of those things. And we give those to clients. You can use this. If you know how to use this, that's great. Use it. If we part ways, use it. Please do. The second thing that we do is the creation of content. Sometimes it's created from established content, but that requires a lot of chopping on my team's part. It's a slicing and dicing and pulling and getting creative. But most of the time we send clients scripts and prompts and bullet point lists. Here's what we need from you. Once they give us back the video, we start the testing process. And this is my favorite. This is the part where my team and I see how far we can push the boundaries. And we start sending the client, there's the baseline of content that we know will work and it'll be consistent and they'll grow. But I say, let's try this angle, or, hey, what do you think about this angle? And they'll send it to the client and it can get pretty outrageous, just so you know. And we'll see, are they willing to go this far into rage bait? Are they willing to go this far into hilarious? Are they willing to get this emotional? So we test all the limits and then we see where the client's parameters are, where they say, stop, I'm not willing to go that far. And then we put out all that content. The first 30 days are usually a pretty big blitz. Definitely the first 60, it's a blitz. And when I say blitz, I mean, it's crazy. John, I use my social media platforms as testing platforms, and most people don't know that. So almost everything I'm posting is not stuff I've come up with that day. It's different ways of sharing things we want to try for clients. So just by doing that, last year, I was pretty lazy with my own intentional content creation. We reached 105 million people organically, which is fantastic. And we spent probably less than $10,000 on ads the whole year. Then from there, so we do the blitz. This is important. We have to put out tons of content, way more than we actually plan on putting out, because when somebody is getting traction for the first time, it is the hardest 30, 60, 90 ever. If your agency is not sweating for the first 30, 60, 90, if they are not at least a little stressed, something is off, because it is hard work getting that moving organically. Now, if you're running ads, all you're doing is waiting to see one thing pop off. And the moment it does, you can start running ads to that to just kind of prime the pump, start getting some views into the page, start building kind of that warm audience, that custom audience. So you can create lookalikes. And you keep getting more and more qualified as each and every spike gets higher and the baseline gets higher.
Yeah. And so is there a difference? And I know there is.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference from what you want to post from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook to LinkedIn?
Sometimes content can go on all. Sometimes we tailor it. Like, for example, if it's going on Instagram, Facebook, you probably want to make sure that there's some type of ManyChat or bot that's collecting ancillary leads as you go, as you're testing and blitzing. So we do tweak the text on screen sometimes. We tweak the captions, and then we set up the ManyChat bots as well to capture any leads that we could possibly get just in that testing phase. But a lot of the content can be repurposed. I actually don't think of content. This might be kind of a cool mindset change for some people who are listening. I don't think of content as, this is my YouTube content, this is my Facebook content, this is my Instagram content. We categorize content into 4 buckets, and those are short form text. So those are those little plithy 1 or 2 liners. Long form text, which usually has a lot of value or emotion.
Novels.
Yes, people love them. The platforms love them. They're exhausting to write, right?
They're exhausting to read.
I know. I'm a Cliff Notes person, but the masses love them. They just do.
All right.
3 is short form videos. Those are the vertical videos. And then number 4 is long form videos. Those are horizontal. Those are the only 4 types of content you need to create. And then all you have to do is know which ones belong on which platforms.
And obviously you A/B test on every single different platform?
Sometimes, so we'll test similar pieces of content, but there's no true A/B test on any social media platform with the exception of YouTube's thumbnails and titles. You can't actually truly A/B test. But I'm going to say, like, we lead a lot of testing, and we'll say what happens when we do this, what happens when we use a more big, bold, audacious hook instead of the contrarian's delight hook. And that's kind of, yeah.
The contrarian's delight. Anyway, I like the honey pot. Let's go back in saying that to ads and ad fatigue. Is it really a thing? Like if an ad's working, does it eventually fatigue? And why not just change the audience or approach others? Like,
Ads,
tell me
ads,
about that.
ads absolutely can fatigue, but that's when people are running small audiences. So I personally believe in bigger audiences. I shoot for 7 to 8 figures with all of my ad campaigns so that fatigue is not even close. I also believe in testing new audiences. And then every so often I'll throw in more and more creatives. My team and I will hop in there, get some split tests going with other creatives and copy, just so that we have backups kind of on call. It can happen. It shouldn't.
Okay. And what's your biggest success story? And have you been able to do it consistently, not just a one and done or a one hit wonder?
Yeah. I'm going to name a few and you tell me which one you think sounds the greatest. So I worked actually for, do you know like Brian Burt and Brian Johnson of, I think it's like AMZ Trainer or Amazon. And we turned $25,000 in ad spend into $1.6 million in revenue in a launch. That was pretty fantastic.
Come on.
I was pretty happy.
Were you getting revenue share?
No, that was really early on in my career. And I just was hanging in there by,
Yeah, I know.
fingernails. Then we took a skincare company from $5,000 to $6,000 months to $286,000 in 7 months. That was kind of a fun one.
What skincare was that? Are you allowed to talk about that? Because I'm part owner of Aqua Plus skincare.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, we created that, but we're not in the U.S. There's maybe a different one, but we created Aqua Plus. We're in like 6 countries.
Interesting. Huh. I can't share which one, but I can share that it was natural, all natural. And they were working towards their certification for organic, and then they didn't get it. And then a big name marketer almost bought them, and then that fell through. It was wild.
Yeah, well,
So-
I'll be happy to sell Aqua Plus to L'Oreal.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah. So those are a couple. We've had a lot of other really cool campaigns. Those are a few of my favorites. A fitness company we took from 300,000 to 3 million in 11 months. So it was a hard scale. It always reminds me of like sailing, when you're pulling on those sails and you're like, hang in there. That's how scaling always feels. We also helped a book get on the New York Times bestsellers list by driving enough sales for it. Generated 3,000 leads in 2 months for a software company. We worked with an e-commerce company that was doing $1,000 per day, scaled them to $10,000 per day. Oh, and I got to train Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins' social media and marketing teams. So that was pretty fun.
Nice. So I've enjoyed this. This has been really phenomenal, above my expectations, quite frankly. And no, thank you. Really appreciate you coming on the show. How do people find you and work with you? I mean, obviously, Rachel, you're a known queen of social media. How do they work with you? And typically, what does an engagement look like?
Yeah. So when I work directly with clients one-on-one, when it's me doing everything, those rates are going to be 47,000 to 247,000 per year. But those are really high level, high touch. I'm going to be all up in your business all the time in a good way. Working with your team, coaching your team, all of the above. I only take on 1 or 2 of those clients per year because it's intense and it brings me to life. But I also have an agency that is incredible. I still work around it, in it, coach my team, support my partner. And it's called Pelanora, PELANORA.com. And there we do consulting, fractional work, and pretty much everything you could need for marketing. But to find me, go to rachelpedersen.com, all E's and a D in my last name. And I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet. So,
Well, thanks for jumping on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Rachel Pedersen.
thank you.
That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.